months, let's say you had no rent coming in, if you're comfortable sharing that,
Yeah.
how much would that cost you and your partners out of pocket?
Break even, probably, I would say it's probably $25,000 per month.
So today I'm going to be answering one of the most common questions I've been getting on my channel for the last couple of weeks, and that is whether or not I think that the current market conditions will have any effect on the real estate market. Now, I'm not a real estate expert by any means, so what I'm going to be doing is visiting a friend of mine who is a real estate expert, and we're going to sit down and talk about the likelihood of a real estate or housing market crash in the near future. Alright guys, so I'm on my way now driving to meet up with my friend Vitaly, and he is a big real estate investor in my local area, and so I'm excited to pick his brain and ask him about what he thinks is going to happen with the overall real estate market and the housing market based on what is going on with the stock market. And as you guys may know from my videos, I'm an owner-occupied real estate investor myself. I have just one property right now and I have 2 tenants. And so I'm not really at as big of a risk right now as far as the real estate market crash goes, if that's a possibility, or if tenants are unable to pay rents. But somebody like Vitaly has many more units than I do with his partners, and so he is somebody who is at a bigger risk here as far as real estate prices go because he has a much larger investment portfolio. So I'm excited to get his perspective about this, guys. We should be there in about 20 minutes, and I'm going to hopefully answer all of the questions I've been getting related to the real estate market. All right, guys, so I am here with my close friend here, Vitaly, and we are currently hanging out in your basement here. We're going to talk about real estate. We've seen what has happened with the stock market, and a lot of people are wondering, you know, how is this going to affect the housing market? So do you want to just share a little bit about maybe your background, your real estate portfolio, things like that?
For sure. So guys, I've been investing in real estate since 2011. I'm actually a practicing attorney. That's my day job. That's what I've been doing since 2010. Started in real estate with just a duplex where I lived in one of the units and I rented out the other one, and then slowly started building my portfolio and started kind of, you know, buying more buildings with business partners and by myself. And so currently I'm up to 46 units. And you know, I'm in the local area with Ryan in upstate New York. And that's pretty much kind of been my story there in a nutshell. Gotcha,
yeah. And I was mentioning on the ride over here too, I just got started with real estate and I have just my own house and then the 2 units attached to it. And so I guess in your situation, when you have more units, can you explain why it is that you might be a little bit more concerned about the real estate market and rent and things like that rather than a smaller investor?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I think we want to talk about when it comes to this current crisis, and I know we can't name
it for the YouTube algorithm. We got to call it the said virus or the virus.
Exactly. Yeah. When you have a lot of units like I do, like my business partner does, and your income stream stops, which is the rents, which is huge news right now. All across the country, either people are talking about rent strikes, and as of the date of this recording, we're recording the day before April 1st rent is due. So it's obviously a hot button issue, and you have a lot of governments, states, cities are basically shutting down evictions. They're preventing courts from taking any evictions, and they're also not allowing, in some cases, landlords to collect rent. And so if you have two renters, right? 2 tenants, and you have a W-2 job or you have a business like Ryan does, well, I'm sure you can float that. You know, we're talking about probably 90 days worth of, you know, costs that you're unable to cover with your rents. So you could probably float that. Maybe it's a couple of $1,000s per month. It's not that drastic of a hit. As you get larger in units, those costs really start adding up. And, you know, not to flex or any of that stuff here, but over 46 units comes to about $40,000 per month in gross rent that comes in.
Okay.
So what we're talking about, what politicians right now are talking about in New York State, is putting a 90-day freeze and actually forgiveness on rents for certain tenants who have a loss of income. And so when that happens, that means that $40,000 per month goes away, and now we're stuck having to cover the costs associated with owning the rental properties.
So let's say you had no rent coming in, if you're comfortable sharing that,
Yeah.
how much would that cost you and
Yeah.
your partners out of pocket?
Break even, probably, I would say it's probably $25,000 per month. You know,
Per month.
maybe 20 to 25. That would be break even. So you know, we're fine. And we have reserves. We
Sure.
sort of, you know, we're well enough off. We've planned for things like this. There's plenty of money in the properties right now, but you know, if it goes on longer than 90 days, it starts getting more and more incrementally problematic.
Yeah, sure. So you guys have a cash cushion built up for an event like this. Right. The main question that I have people asking is they see the stock market crashing. Does that mean that the real estate and housing market is going to crash as well?
So the way I look at it is the two things are not necessarily tied together in this, but we may very well still see a housing crash because of sort of the ancillary effects of what's happening. So just to kind of set the stage so everyone's on the same page of what's happening and the domino effect that we've seen. First, it started with no travel, right? So we have travel bans outside the country. Airlines got hit, right? No one's traveling to China. People didn't want to travel to other countries where their outbreaks are, you know, were firing up. And the government sort of started putting a freeze on those things. Started hurting the airline industry. The next immediate impact was the hotel industry, the hospitality industry, and I talked about this in another one of my videos where it was the short-term rental market.
Yeah, the Airbnbs.
The Airbnbs.
Yep.
And there's a subset of those that got hit even worse, which is there are investors out there, and actually a couple of guys on YouTube that have pretty cool channels to follow if you were interested in that, except right now, they're not doing so well.
Yeah, you're talking the guys who will rent places and do Airbnb rental arbitrage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough because
that's scary.
You've got nobody booking, you've got no revenue coming in, and you're still under contract the lease, the sort of master lease with your landlord essentially. So you were subleasing in, now you have no revenue coming in, and now what? You're defaulting.
Right.
And you know, with the eviction bans in some states, maybe you're not getting evicted yet, but you're not going to get that revenue back, and a lot of them are getting hit. Those expenses are getting stacked for those Airbnb arbitrage guys too. So they got hit next, right? After that, as more and more businesses started to shut down under quarantine orders or under mandatory lockdowns by governors of states, you started seeing people getting laid off. And first it was the restaurant industry, right? So everyone, cooks, the waiters, the waitresses, they all started getting laid off. And then it moved on to other public venues. They got shut down, or they're on furlough, or they're not getting paid. Well, most people who rent are people who are in sort of that income bracket where, they have jobs, but they're usually kind of lower income jobs, or they're service jobs, or they're retail jobs. A lot of stores have closed now. And those are the same people that you're relying on as a landlord to pay you rent, right? And when those people get laid off, they have no income coming in. They can't pay your rent, whether they want to or not, they're unable to pay your rent. And then it has an immediate impact on the landlords. So, of course, you've talked about this on your channel. We have the stimulus checks coming out shortly. Other things that the government has done on the federal level with the stimulus has been to increase the unemployment benefits that are available to people. So, if that's the situation, tenants in theory should be paying your rent once they get that. But now we're also talking about complete rent freeze. And this is where it starts impacting landlords. You have no way out. If the tenants are told they don't have to pay rent, even if they can, they won't, most likely.
Right.
These are hard times.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, people want to save money. So the next impact is the landlords. Now, the landlords, of course, now are trying to save their costs, just what I just talked about. You want to go to your lender and you want to say, hey, can I get forbearance for a few months? And the lenders are forced to, because what are they going to do? Foreclose on you? They want to get paid at some point. They don't want to deal with a bunch of foreclosures. So they're deferring their profits. So now the banks are hurting. Next thing they're doing, and we're looking at this now, is my business partner and I in the process of refinancing some rental properties that we had private money on into long-term financing with lenders. The lenders are now getting tighter. They're pulling back. They're saying, you know what? We're going to hold off on lending anymore on real estate, lending on, multifamily real estate. As this gets worse, if this continues, we go more than a month, more than 2 months, 3 months, you're going to start seeing homeowners who are laid off and who can't pay their mortgages. And it's going to be the same issue for them with the banks, and there's more pullback. And so when we're talking about effect on real estate and whether or not we're going to have a housing crash, it's not really tied to the stock market in the same sense. You know, obviously confidence plays a role.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about pullbacks like this from the banks and you know, the jobs being lost, the values of real estate are going to start going down. And that's going to be, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's quite possible, again, depends on how deep this gets and how bad it gets. It's possible that lenders are going to be very reluctant to lend on multifamily properties for a while because they're looking at it as, you know, it's a risk reward for them. And so multifamily real estate was pretty safe, you know, relatively speaking before. With this now, where even if the landlord operator is a good operator, they're doing everything right, they're, you know, making sure that things are paid for, they're making sure property is well maintained and taken care of, a black swan event like this can crop up and destroy the entire, you know, the entire operation, and that comes back on the lender. So the lenders are going to be thinking about that, I think, and, you know, the quicker we get out of this, the more likely it'll be that you'll be able to see deals sooner and we'll be able to get back to business when it comes to real estate. But the longer it takes, the deeper the recession is going to be and the harder it's going to be.
The one word that comes to my mind is just uncertainty, and there's just still so much of that.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot on my video about, is the stock market going to crash again? If you guys didn't see that video, I'll toss a card up in the corner. There's just too many unknowns right now to call a bottom or to really know what's going on, because there's all these different variables that are changing day by day. And so we'll just, you know, we'll have to just reevaluate and see what happens as we go here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that wraps us up, guys. Vitaly, thanks so much for coming
having
on.
me on.
I want you to tell people quick about your channel.
Sure.
And I'm also going to put a link down below for you guys to check out Vitaly's channel. But yeah, what kind of videos can they expect from you?
Yeah, sure. So my videos are primarily on real estate investing. I also touch on the kind of the legal side of things as well. So you got that angle with me. I'm a lawyer. That's my day job. So I have that as my background. So I work that in, you know, relating to New York State, but also across the country as well. But it's real estate investing strategies and all that. I don't post as often as Ryan does or Graham Stephan, you know, the God, Graham Stephan. But, you know, I try to post as often as I can. And if you guys are interested in that, in my videos, check them out and subscribe if you find them useful.
Sure thing. And one last question. Where'd you get that black market haircut? I see that fresh cut. All the barbershops are closed.
Yes, so my mother-in-law is actually a barber. She's a barber. So I called her up yesterday and I said, "Hey, can we do this on the down low?" She said, "All right."
Did a little home visit.
Home visit.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, at the risk of her getting fined for being open.
Oh my gosh,
but
yeah.
No, it was fine. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I know. I've been wondering this. I was wondering that this whole time. I'm like, you just got that haircut.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, all the links are down below. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. And I hope to see you in the next video.